Hi everyone, welcome to our second video on the 7 perspectives in psychology. Let's get started. So, there are 3 levels of analysis when we are looking at behavior of organisms and their way of thinking, their mental processes. The 3 levels are biological, psychological, and sociocultural. This flowchart right here, which is in Unit 1, will come up every unit, okay? So this is a very important flowchart. You probably want to pause this and really read through each thing. Each level is connected and complements the other. So biological is one piece of why we think and behave how we do. Psychological is one other piece of why we think and do what we do. And then sociocultural is that third piece. So these 3 kind of encompass everything. So if we were to take some examples, we have a bunch of examples listed here, but let's just take psychological disorder because anxiety and depression, it affects our brain. In a biological sense, it affects our neurotransmitters. So psychological influences of a disorder, or that create a disorder, could be some sort of trauma that was sustained, or some stressors in the environment, in the way that they're thinking, or their mood is kind of affecting the way of thinking. And then finally, sociocultural factors, so the roles, the expectations that they have to do, what is considered to, what is the expectation of them in society, and what does society teach them about how they feel. So all of these kind of go into play. So there are 7 perspectives that you need to know. You definitely want to write these down. Like I said, each perspective kind of looks using like a lens. That's why I have those sunglasses there, because it's like looking at a situation through a particular lens, each perspective. So all perspectives can really be boiled down to 1 or 2 keywords. So I'm going to give you 1 or 2 keywords for each perspective, and you should absolutely write these down. Should you be writing them down? Yes. So psychodynamic is our first one. So the main focus here, the key term, is underlined. So all mental processes and behaviors result from the influence of our unconscious. So they result from the influence of our unconscious. So psychodynamic equals unconscious. When you think psychodynamic, think our unconscious behaviors. Why do we do what we do? Unconscious behaviors, according to the psychodynamic way of thinking. If it helps, if you know a little bit about Freud and his interpretation of dreams and the unconscious, you can think about him for psychodynamic too, because he is a key person for this perspective. Behavioral. So all mental processes and behaviors result from the influence of something we have learned. We might have learned something through training, like directly, maybe just by observing someone else, maybe because we've received rewards or punishments, and not even consciously, but someone rewarded us with a congratulations, that was awesome, and that's a reward. You know, they weren't thinking, I'm going to reward them by saying congratulations, but that's a reward. So these kind of things come in all different forms, but it's something that we have learned in some way. We've picked it up. We have learned to respond or associate things in a certain way, and so we do. We have learned in school to raise our hand in class, and so most of the time, most of us do raise our hand. The biological perspective. This one's not that great, I'm sorry, but this is what I got. All mental processes and behaviors result from the influence of something biological. That's the best word that I could come up with. I think it's pretty straightforward here. So we're looking at brain function, chemistry of the brain, so neurotransmitters, hormones, sensory experiences, the way something smells or the sounds of it. Those can drive our behaviors, right? You hear a good tune, right? An upbeat tune, you get a little happy. Chemical imbalances that can cause aggression or a psychological disorder. So they look at why we do what we do from that biological perspective. And then they also treat from that biological perspective as well. Humanistic. So I like this one. It's happy. All mental processes and behaviors result from the influence of wanting to grow as a person. So humanistic equals grow. Think of this like the perspective is that we're kind of all like flowers or trees, if you'd rather be a tree. We need certain things. There are certain ingredients to help a tree grow, right? And if the tree gets those ingredients, it will grow. It's not a question. It will grow as long as it gets these ingredients. So the humanistic perspective believes that all humans are good and they're trying to improve. And they only can't improve when their ingredients, their needs are not met. So that could be the need to feel love, the need to feel safe, the need to feel accepted. When we don't get those things, it affects our ability to grow. But otherwise, we are always striving to grow and improve. That's a humanistic perspective. And doesn't Fred Rogers just fit perfectly here? So that's why I put his quote here. Okay, the cognitive perspective. So think cognitive is obviously thinking, right? So mental processes and behaviors result from the influence of making a decision. So cognitive equals decision. So it could be something that we have learned in the past by some sort of consequence happened to us. Maybe we just watched someone else get a consequence or whatever. But we can kind of weigh, the cognitive psychologists say we can kind of just weigh things in our head and make decisions without anything happening to us. Maybe we've never experienced, we have no idea about something, but we still think in our brains about what to do, and that thinking affects our behavior, and it affects the way we feel, and it affects the way we think in the future. So cognitive equals decision. So the evolutionary perspective, all mental processes and behaviors result from the influence of increasing the chances of survival of the species. So it's all about Darwin and survival of the species, survival of the fittest is the name of the game, right? So everything that we do is an evolutionary part of us that has helped us maintain and grow as a species. Pretty straightforward. Sociocultural, our last one. So all mental processes and behaviors result from the influence of our society. So society starts small too. So it could be your family, and then your friends at school, and your school community, and your town, and the region of the world that you're in, and all that. They all have an influence on the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you behave. So changing those things, and you act, and you think, and you feel differently. So that's sociocultural perspective. So currently, like kind of full circle here, psychologists use an eclectic approach. And eclectic is a vocab word. And what that means is they don't just use one perspective, because that would be silly. You can't explain everything just through biology. You can't explain everything just through cognitive perspective. So you need each of them to kind of get a full picture of why an organism does and thinks what they do. So each perspective complements the other ones, and it gives that complete perspective. So takeaways. That biopsychosocial model is super important. It's going to come up every unit, multiple times probably. It gives us our 3 main levels of analysis, so make sure you really understand that. Go back, pause it, play it again, whatever you need to do. Go back to the textbook, whatever you need to do to really kind of understand that. And you will understand it really well as we go on too. Each perspective adds a key element to our understanding of organisms, so kind of becoming comfortable and familiar with those perspectives. So if I say like, oh, well, this is a humanistic way of looking at behavior, you kind of in your head go, humanistic grow. Yeah, they always want them to grow, and they will always grow and improve if they can, if they're given the right ingredients. So again, these come up throughout the whole course. So make sure that you feel comfortable and good about all of these terms, and I will see you next time.